Tag TV, and Tag Radio. Technology now has a voice of innovation and information. Get it on www.tagtvonline.com. The art and science of formulating, implementing, and evaluating cross-functional decisions that enable top management and entrepreneurs to achieve their objectives. Strategy formulation, implementation, and evaluation in today's global market matrix must meet all existing and potential competitors, ever-changing circumstances, new technology, new economic environments, and in the virtual economy of tomorrow must meet new social, financial, and political paradigms yet to be imagined. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, July 8th, 2008, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. Complex management strategy and project life cycles in the new economy. The plan, the where are we now, the where are we going, and the how are we going to get there of the new millennium. Up to the Tech Talk, New Economy Strategic Management, as Tino explores the present and future of corporate objectives and how to achieve them with Brian Betkowski, founding co-partner of Jabian Consulting, one of the industry's top strategic management organizations focused on leading business through complex market challenges while helping them to utilize their technology for maximum achievement. Brian specializes in business financial analysis, program management, development strategy, change management, and functional solution management architecture. Prior to co-founding Jabian Consulting, Brian worked with Accenture, leading large teams through many transformational and outsourcing programs. Strategic management consulting in an era of massive business change, evolving IT complexity, and an integrated global economy, has Tino Tech Talks with Jabian Consulting co-founder and leading corporate change visionary, Brian Betkowski.
Brian, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you are co-founder of the company. How long have you been in business?
Since the beginning of 2006.
And I know because you're good TAG members and very active with us that you have had an aggressive growth strategy, and it's been successful. So you have major presence now. Are you primarily focused on Georgia and Atlanta area?
Yeah, Atlanta market. You know, a lot of us had worked in consulting for a long time, so traveling is not as appealing as it once was, you know?
Yeah, and you're saving a lot of money on gas, and you're saving the world for energy, so that's a good thing too.
Yep.
Just in general, in terms of the marketplace for consulting, I mean, I would guess it's fairly crowded out there. Have you guys found a particular niche, and how's the community responding to that?
Yeah, so probably around, I guess, 5 years ago, a little more, when the outsourcing and the offshoring really started to hit, we saw that wave, and what we found was you can only really outsource and offshore certain things, so the actual development started to become, more of a commodity, and that went offshore and stayed offshore, but really the strategic parts and the architecture parts and really understanding the business of why you do things in IT is just something you really can't not have local. Even if you're not even in the same city, it's hard to do. So what we found is like really partnering with with IT management and the business folks, in operations or sales, whoever's working closely with IT. That's been what's been able to differentiate us from just being an outsourced delivery shop. We're really trying to help drive what they're doing in IT from a business perspective and less just from a hardcore delivery perspective.
And, the economy, of course, we all know has shifted a bit. Some things are more challenging at this point in time. How does that impact the consulting business? Are companies more apt to come to you with needs? I guess it would vary.
Yeah, well, there's two parts of it, right? Most companies, we work with a lot of growth companies, and no one's given up, right? So everyone's trying to get creative and trying to say, okay, well, we're going to come through this, and how we're going to come through it, better, leaner, faster, and what are some opportunities now to say, hey, let me take a step back. Things might be a little slower. Where are there places we can trim, or where are there places where we can just get ready? they can actually take advantage of some of the drop in costs for things that they buy in a tough economy. So they have the opportunity to get into some things at a lower cost now than they would perhaps in 2 years, and we try to help them find those opportunities and kind of plan for the 2 to 5 year time frame.
Now, in terms of size of company, is there a sweet spot for you guys? TAG looks at things now. There's been a couple studies out in terms of your entrepreneurs, which might be 1 to 9 employees, and then your second stage, which is 10 to say 99, and then up from there. Is there a particular area that you guys focus on?
Yeah, so we're in the second stage that you just referred to, and I would say we're more mid-market focused as far as companies that are trying to go from departmental to more enterprise. So we've worked with lots of huge companies in all of our backgrounds, and we're trying to take all of that knowledge and bring it to a company who, let's say, is going from a couple, maybe 100 IT folks to maybe 500 to 1,000 IT folks. Really growing their company. Kind of maybe $500 million to a couple $1 billion company. That's kind of the sweet spot right now for us.
And what sort of innovative approaches are you using to help your clients create their particular strategies?
So, from an IT strategy perspective, what we really try to drive is getting IT to think like the business. So, historically, a lot of times people think of IT shops as cost centers, and they're trying to constantly drive, how can they drive a little more cost out? How can I offshore? How can I, get lean? And that's really important, and that is definitely a part of every kind of strategy, except what we really try to drive people is you got to think on the value side. And it's not only just revenue, which is obviously an important thing. So we try to get people to understand how can we drive revenue through IT, not just cut cost. But there's other things that IT can drive, like employee sat and customer sat and lower churn and all those things that have real business benefit, but people don't always think of them from an IT perspective. They're always looking for, what's the latest technology that I can get, or what's the hottest thing out there on the market, when they need to not just do it because it's the neatest thing, but do it because it actually drives some benefit to their own business. And we have some standardized ways to prioritize things. We drive, kind of traditional business cases into IT and get them prioritized just like you would prioritize any normal, product or sales or operations initiative, and let people, make decisions just like they would on the normal business side, not just because it's a neat technology.
So you get the call, you go into a company, and they say, hey, we think we need to focus on a particular area more, or maybe they're not even sure where they need to focus. They know they want to grow to that next level, as you had described. So where do you start in terms of creating a strategy for the client? Right.
So kind of to build on the last point is, we really start on the business side. So what's the vision? What's the strategy? Where are you going? And what we try to do is we use this little technique where we say, hey, imagine you had to write two press release headlines for your business over whatever the time frame that we're looking at. So let's say if we're looking at a 3 to 5 year time frame, let's write 2 press releases for each of the next 3 to 5 years. What would the title say to those press releases? So you really make people think broader to start with and say, well, yeah, where am I going? And then you have to really help people avoid the temptation to go tactical, to think, okay, well, I got to fix this. This is broken. Okay, I got to do this and this little point. And although those tactical parts are really important, you have to do those to keep your business going. You have to pull yourself up from that a little bit to think strategic. And then what we try to do is you need to then combine into an actual plan the strategy that you created with the tactical things and the other products that you have going on. So we really try to complement our strategy offering with kind of a demand management and a program management offering, which again differentiates us from just a pure strategy firm to a firm that actually delivers, because we like to be involved with the actual delivery of what we get to work on in the early phases. So we start people with that high vision and then bring them down into the actual project management and the business case development pretty quickly.
Now, the recipient of the strategy, so do you primarily work when you go in with the CIO or CTO, or do you start with the CEO and chairman, president, whatever the title?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the company. I mean, a lot of times even if we start there, where we quickly gravitate to is that director level or that VP level person that owns a business function, either operations, sales or sales operations, service operations, product, marketing, someone that's on the front lines, but still interacting with the highest level of management. So we get the high level management vision, then we start working with the VPs and directors, and then really the recipients. The most important recipients are actually the employees of the company and your customers, because people can tell really quickly if your strategy wasn't developed for them or wasn't developed with them in mind. So it's really important to get the vision from the higher level, but then get down to the employee level and say, well, what does this mean to me? How does this change my job or as a customer? How does it change how I'll interact with you as a company? Because really, you can't forget all of those kind of soft factors like employee and customer sat, market awareness, media attention and community involvement, all those things that really will round out the business, and those have to be part of what you're doing. So everyone really ends up being a recipient, even though different levels have input into it.
So it sounds like a key piece of the total strategy picture would be communication upwards and down to the employees and getting buy-in. So is that a key element as to how Jabian would look at rolling something out?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have lots of face-to-face meetings with employees. We always try to articulate the strategy in terms of the business value or the impact to the person that you're communicating to. So it is neat to just, it's neat to have a presentation and show them the latest and greatest technology. Everyone loves that. We work with a lot of technologists. But really when it comes down to it is, what does it mean to me? What does it mean to my business? What is it going to do? And we use a lot of pictures because, technical people usually like pictures. Everyone loves pictures. So we try to say things with pictures. We also try to show a real plan. So a lot of times when we articulate the strategy, it's here is the strategy, here's when we're going to get there, and here is a high-level plan. At first, a high-level plan of literally project by project, time by time, who's going to be working on the projects, how things are going to be structured. We really try to get there quickly because it becomes tangible quickly, and people really gravitate to tangible things. So we try to get people, especially the leaders of it, try to get them really fired up, really positive, really passionate. As you can tell, we're all passionate about this, and we really try to empower a couple real key leaders to lead their folks through the strategy.
So the one thing I'm sure our listeners would be interested in is what measure of success, or how do you measure success of a business strategy? And the second piece to that is, do the companies that engage you give you the opportunity to stay with, let's say, a longitudinal period where you can actually see the outcomes and maybe give input as they go through the various steps and run into the inevitable chinks in the armor and things you have to adjust? Or is it, here's an assignment, okay, thanks a lot, and you move on to the next one?
Right. Okay. So I'll take the first one about the measurement. Really one of the keys to how you measure it is being very diligent at first to only defining a strategy that can be measured. So there's some grayness there. I mean, obviously, when you start with some high-level strategy statements, those might not be extremely measurable. But really quickly, you need to get down and understand, the KPIs of your business, what you're going to measure, how you're going to measure, how are you measuring them now versus how you might measure them later. Do you have some kind of baselines for some of those measurements? So that's first. But at the same time, you can't get too bogged down in trying to make it an exact science. So we try to get people to understand what the trajectory and what the boundaries of the measurements are going to be, and then just as long as we're staying inside those boundaries, we can keep making progress and not get so bogged down. And the second part of your question is a key to that is we are, and all of us have had really, really major delivery backgrounds. So it's what we're really good at, and we specialize in bridging that gap between business and IT. So the roles we usually almost all the time play are the solution architect, the functional architect. We do design, we do project management throughout the life cycle of our project, and then we pick it up on the back end again with testing and deployments. So we're usually involved down to the last UAT test, out to the field, doing the training, very involved all the way through the life cycle. It's kind of what we're passionate about. We're not just a pure kind of come in at the high level, throw some strategies on the table, leave, and wish you the best.
Right.
It's kind of where where we really specialize is on the delivery side.
And in terms of communicating out the strategy, we talked a little bit about this, but there's got to be some tried and true methods that you use to actually make sure that people are vested in. I guess this is a lot of those face-to-face meetings you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you got to always talk to people on, what they think about day to day. So a lot of times when we're changing, technologies or migrating away from legacy technologies inside of a company, people are really, attached to it in almost an emotional way. So you have to really help people understand that it's actually better for their career, perhaps in some cases, to learn a new technology. Keeps them more excited about their job. It allows them to maybe learn about a new part of the job. So really the employee side ends up being sometimes the most critical part to the communications. Obviously there's the technology aspect. If you're bringing on a new technology, you got to understand it's got to be proven, it's got to provide the value, but in the end it's your employees that are going to be delivering it. So it really is the most important part.
And from a standpoint of the Atlanta market, going back full circle, I mean, you guys have been all over the world, I'm sure, with the big consulting firms in your background, and now you focus more on the Atlanta market. Is there any things you can compare and contrast? I mean, are we in a good marketplace here?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, there are offices with almost all the big companies here, and really almost all the verticals. So, we haven't, knock on wood, haven't seen, real hard times yet. So, and we're still growing really fast. I think there's a good market for the non-commoditized skills that can't and haven't gone offshore. People are always going to need help growing their business, innovating, thinking outside the box, bringing in the experiences from some of the larger companies down into more of the mid-market companies. So, everyone here is still passionate about growth in Atlanta, and I think they're all real confident that, we're going to make it out of here pretty good.
So I've been talking with Brian Betkowski, who's co-founder of Jabian. Brian, thanks for joining me on Tech Talk today.
Thanks for having me.